All right, so this time it's the review to the follow-up session with Tamia. Um, Once again, it was an interesting one. Things got kind of weird. First, let me start off by saying again, all these reviews and so on I'm doing, um, it's all in the interest of just like education, communication, discussing socionics in general, and so on. So it's nothing to take personal for anybody or anything like that. All right. Just throwing that out there. I know some people sometimes can get a little sensitive or a little nervous about being out in the spotlight or whatever. So it's really not about that at all. All right, so moving on. So some of the things that happened throughout this session that's important to talk about. One, Tamia, I feel like I'm gonna mess up that name. I'm sorry. Sorry. Um, she kind of ended the first session as leaning towards an SEI or an ISFP in socionics with Alpha Quadra. That's kind of what that sort of ended up. When this second follow-up started, it kind of resumed from there, but then IEE was thrown into the mix, which is the ENFP, which is pretty radical, right? Just because of the fact that an SEI is leading with an SI function and having NE at the bottom as suggestive. An ENFP is going to be the other way around. So you're kind of already scratching your head wondering how are we mixing these two up, or how is it possible you could be one and possibly the other? They're like inverted types of each other. So it kind of got a little weird. Okay. Anyway, as things go on, we start to kind of remove IEE as a possibility, and we're sticking with SEI, and then IEI, the INFP in socionics, or INFJ for my MBTI people, kind of jumps into the mix. And this starts to go down. So there's a lot of discussions and things that start happening, especially in the live commentary during the follow-up session. And there's plenty of things to kind of clear up and go over. So let's go over a few things first. I'm gonna start off with this right here, this lovely uber super awesome chart. So SEI, again, ISFP in socionics, IEI, INFP in socionics, right? This is the breakdown. This is the stack. This is the order of everything. These are the positions and their names, the general names. Polar, also known as the vulnerable function, all right? This is what this is, okay? Here are the ego blocks, super ego, super id, etc. Two things to keep in mind. SEIs and IEIs actually on a superficial level can look very similar to one another. There's a lot of things that they sort of overlap. In MBTI world, you'd hear this a lot, people being mistyped as one or the other, because there's a lot of superficial overlap. Here in socionics, let's look at the things that overlap. Okay, both have FE as creative function. FE again, creative function. Both would have FI as demonstrative function. It's a very bold function. You'd be able to see it in both of them. Okay, both are TE polar or TE vulnerable, and both would have TI as their mobilizing functions. So there's a lot of very noticeable functions in the middle that are pretty much the same. Because of that, they can, again, superficially kind of seem like each other. You can easily pick up on the strong feeling skills, the FE, the FI. You can pick up that they do have some TI going on, a structure that they care about. You can pick up that TE is something they're not good at. These are all things that we're going to notice between the two of them. But then we get to the kicker, the important stuff. How about just the base function? What is the thing that is standing out? SI versus NI. They're both perceiving functions. They're both introverted functions. So they can be tricky. Now, there was a lot of conversation in the chat on like seeing SE versus seeing SI, which means there's a bit of confusion on what SI or SE really is. Some even going so far as saying they're seeing strong SE in a ego block positions. Notice that either way with these two types, SE is going to be very weak. It's way down here in a ignored position, and here in a supporting position, suggested position, excuse me. Okay, they're weak either way. So people kind of suggesting seeing a lot of SE in the ego block is either a misunderstanding of the definition, or you're just seeing a whole other human being. Okay. So let's talk about it. Some definitions. Here's one from World Socionics Society. It's kind of appropriate for this because this is a World Socionics Society typing session. Sensation of force boosts one's power and dominance over the physical surroundings. This instills an attitude of competition and assertiveness, treating things as straightforward and direct. Intensely pursuing one's ambitions in the real world and overcoming challenges to gain more territory. Okay. That's having extroverted sensation. Compare that to introverted sensation. Refine sensory experiences down to that of the best quality, seeking to maintain the natural organic flow of one's experiences. This instills an attitude of calm, relaxation, avoiding anything too strenuous or worrisome, being satisfied and context with what is natural, pleasant, and convenient. She went well out of her way, especially in the first session, to explain that she had no desire to really climb any kind of hierarchy, any kind of ladder. She's not competitive at all. She really has a hard time being assertive and standing up for herself. She kind of dislikes it when people are too assertive and pushy about things. She really strongly points those things out, which is really pushing you away from extroverted sensing as being strong. At the minimum, it's not going to be strong. She's really flat out saying that a lot. And she kind of continues with that here. She later talks about like wanting extroverted sensation. Like she wishes she had more of it. And that's an important piece that comes up here. Enjoying the more aesthetics, the environment, keeping things because it makes you feel good. It's a nice sensory experience to have the room a certain way, things done a certain way. Even down to your style of dress and all this other stuff, that shifts you more into introverted sensation. Okay. Having impact on other people is more of an FE thing. Making sure that other people feel a certain mood, that you're really able to motivate them and drive them, can be more of an FE thing. So impact on others is not necessarily extroverted sensing either. Okay. Force. This could be force in a more literal sense. You could have people that are quietly sitting there, not doing much, but they are the person that knows at the end of the day, they have the power. They are the guys controlling the wallet, the money. They're the people who know they can beat the crap out of you if they need to, but they don't have to show that off. They don't have to say much. They don't have to be all that emotional about anything. Okay. Point being is that sometimes people are kind of lumping extroverted sensation and extroverted feeling together, and it's like, be careful with that. They're not quite the same thing. Carrying on. The kicker, the big deal, was introverted intuition versus introverted sensing. Now, the introverted sensing, we saw a lot of that because of like the room and wanting to keep things rather pleasant with people, keeping a nice environment. We don't really want hostility amongst people and things like that. There was plenty to go on there that seemed a lot more in the introverted sensation range. Did we really get enough of introverted intuition? And that's the real question that I was having. For an IEI, they should be introverted intuition dominant. It's a base function. It should really be standing out. Introverted intuition here by World Socionics. Okay, intuition of time limits probabilities to predict the most likely outcome. This instills an attitude of working out what is important in life and detaching from day-to-day concerns, attempting to work out the path that lies ahead and how to fulfill a positive future or else avert a disaster. Okay, that's one definition. Let's try another one. Okay, introverted intuition is one of those that's often debated about. Let's try from sociotype here. Here we go, up here. Introverted intuition, introverted irrational dynamic element. Got it. T, temporal, it's time. Yeah. Generally associated with the ability to recognize the unfolding processes over time, how one event leads to another, have visions of the past and future, develop mental imagery, and see intangible hints of relationships between processes or objects. Types that value NI always like to have in mind a specific plan for how their life will develop in the future. Thus, they have little time for the concept of living in the moment or making the best of the present. They generally engage in pure leisure activities only for short periods of time. And even then, their leisure activities generally involve a psychological, demanding, or competitive aspect. Okay, so those are the definitions for clarity. My challenge there is like, did you really get a sense of enough NI in that follow-up session? To me, not really. Not really. Now, it's clarifying a few things. I understand exactly where the conversation sort of shifted directions, and she started kind of responding in a different way. And I see where Jack suddenly started looking at her differently, started going, oh, wait a minute, I might have an IEI on my hands. And I see that. And I see where SE valuing started to kick in. She really started to showcase how much she really wished she had more SE. She values it more. She really finds it even kind of sexy in other people and in boyfriends and all this kind of stuff. So you start to go, okay, all right. It's starting to sound like maybe you're SE valuing, which could make sense for an IEI suggestive position. But the whole time you're watching, you're like, I just don't get enough of a sense of like, this is really an NI base that I'm dealing with, an NI dominant type. It just doesn't feel strong enough. So it's like I get where you're going, but I'm just remain unconvinced. And it could be just stubbornness that maybe we were seeing what we thought was an SEI for quite a while. And then it's just kind of hard to change directions all of a sudden to just go, wait, what? This is not an SEI? Like, what are we looking at? Maybe it's that. Could be a little inertia from that. But who knows? Let's watch a little bit here.
Audience that I might be, I'll see how comfortable I am with maybe articulating my words on the spot. But after that first interview, it proved that that was not the case. I was actually pretty nervous. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm wondering, Tamia, if maybe we should do sort of like almost like a sort of a restart of a follow-up session, just one-to-one. Would you like that?
Actually, I feel a lot more comfortable now.
So there's a reason. Yeah, this is important. Some people kind of say, well, what does it matter? What does it matter if the person's uncomfortable, whatever? They should still be honest. And that's not really the thing. It's not that somebody is being dishonest, but they may not be presenting themselves in the most accurate way. They would just, it's sort of like, you ever have that moment where you have an interaction and you stop and you think back on the interaction, you realize, oh, I probably should have said it like this, or I should have said it like that, because that would have given off the right impression, the impression I wanted to convey. You know, I didn't quite express myself in the right way, and I might have given the wrong impression. That can happen for people who are very uncomfortable in these live sessions.
Slightly on edge. May have changed your answers.
Yeah, I actually had like a list of things.
If you feel free, tell me, please.
Okay. The first one I wanted to address was the doormat comments. I would probably change my answer to be just more accommodating and flexible with other people rather than just not having a backbone or no opinion, no preference. And yeah, so like in a group setting, that's why I said I was go with the flow and laid back, but I think I was just trying to be flexible with everybody wants to do and stuff. Oh, there's another one.
Again,
Another one was
that could work for
what
either type.
qualities do other people have that you don't have? And I think I said somebody who kind of like stands out, but I think I was really getting at somebody making an impact on that group, on the majority.
Oh, these questions. Okay, making an impact. Okay, what kind of impact? You know, could it be more of an FE style impact or SE style impact? What do you mean
I
by
thought
that?
was really, I thought would be a better way of putting things, because I do think I'm a bit of a background character where I'm kind of in the corner looking around. So to see somebody like take a stand and everyone's looking at them and they speak and it has like some sort of impact on these people. I wish I kind of had that leadership quality, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
So that does sound like could be more beta.
That's kind of reincarnated the IEI, the INFJ type.
Right. That sounds like something a beta would want to do.
IEI. Oh,
The INFJ.
More than an alpha, anyway.
Because before you were saying that's because someone doesn't care what anyone thinks about them. But actually, that is the impact, right? It's someone who has that oomph, that sort of front and center leadership style where literally people just listen to them and go on, because they've got a lot of willpower, they've got a lot of personality, a lot of confidence.
Confidence is definitely
and you admire someone who has that confidence.
Yes, because I'm looking at them, I'm like, you have my attention. I don't know how you did it, but you do. I am all ears. But I think I do come off a little weak and very awkward. I'm like, I don't know. And then people are like, yeah, whatever.
Okay, that sounds like SE and FE that you're interested in, which is beta.
Anything else?
It's not specifically SE or FE, it's kind of both.
I mean, this one's kind of, I don't know if it really ties to this topic, but it was the occupations. I think I said I wanted to be an accountant. Definitely dismissed the accounting. I know that it's so detail oriented, and being in the computer, it has like all of the turnoffs I would want in a dream occupation. I'd actually say my dream occupation might be a tattoo artist, because it requires art. Then I could have the most like indirect impact on that person, giving them something meaningful on their body. I work at my own hours. I would have my own chair. Hey, I'd make my own prices, and I thought it kind of like fit everything I was looking for. And also, I love tattoos, with the aesthetic of tattoos and what they can like symbolize and stuff. I have like 4 tattoos right now.
And what is it about tattoos that you like? So it's a meaningful impact.
So all of this is where things turn.
Can you tell me a bit more?
Starting to sound beta.
Yeah, like
searching for meaning now.
Some people think that you shouldn't get tattoos unless they have some sort of significant meaning, but I think if it just represents something that was important in your life, it could be something as like a silly memory, or it could be someone as a loved one, but whatever that meaning is, I think I'm really drawn towards it and creating some art that would perfectly represent that meaning. So yeah, like right now I have the snake on my arm.
Yeah.
Snake on my arm. It's very bold. It's it stands out, and I get a lot of compliments on it. And I kind of think that like this snake is kind of how I want to be, like someone who is let me show it. So it's like a rose. Roses are very powerful. It's red. The snake is black. It pops out. It just has so much power and confidence. He's a badass, this snake on my arm. And part of me is like, I wish I could develop that part of myself, but I just think I need a bit more experience.
This is all right. I'm gonna pause it there. So this little moment right here is kind of representative of everything else that follows. There's a big leaning now towards her being seen as more intuitive type, searching for deeper meaning and so on. And a lot of it's coming through this usage of tattoos and so on. Now, for some people kind of discussing this and making some good points, most of the time when people get tattoos, they don't just get random tattoos, whatever. It always means something in many cases, all right? Most of the time when people get a tattoo, it's going to be permanent. You're putting it on your body because it's going to represent something to you. But does that mean NI? Does that really mean that you're a Dom NI? That's the real question here. And you kind of, I'd have to conclude that it's not sufficient to tell me that this person is an NI dominant type. No, you're just telling me you find meanings in your tattoos. Okay. A lot of people do, and they're not really NI dominant types. So you're like, it's not really enough. Now, I mean, she does light up over this, and I will admit that I do see her being a lot more energetic about this kind of topic, about getting into the meaning with the tattoos, and really she's got this thing for wanting to be more assertive. She doesn't show that same level of interest that much for the more comfort, physical, aesthetic things around the room and stuff that she has. She didn't seem to really, she kind of just was like, whatever. It's, yeah, I do it. I do it pretty decently, whatever, and that was it. She was just not very passionate about that. But here, all of a sudden, she does kind of light up. So that does tell you a little something there. This is a much more interesting conversation for her anyway. But the question still remains, do you really see enough NI going on in this person to warrant being a Dom? And I remind you, what was the definitions? Predict the most likely outcome, limiting probabilities to the most likely outcome, attitude of working out what is important in life and detaching from day-to-day concerns, attempting to work out the path that lies ahead and how to fulfill a positive future, or else avert disaster. All of this stuff that I already mentioned. Have visions of the past, future, develop mental imagery, see intangible things between objects. Are you getting any of that? To me, not really. It's not enough. It's not enough.
This is getting helpful because now, but also I was thinking, okay, you say this thing, you say this thing, you say this thing. I'm not entirely sure. You've now shown me something physical on you that corroborates what you've just said. So that is very, very helpful for me.
Okay.
That is very helpful. What about are you okay telling about your other tattoos?
Yeah. So, okay. I have one on my arm. I have this giant lady head, but her wings kind of signify death. They have skulls and spider webs. I don't think of it as death. I think of it more as sadness, gloomy, maybe a kind of a rough spot in your life, but they're wings. And so her face has like these beautiful colors, and she's full of makeup and life. So even though that not everything in life is going to go out the way you plan, and the wings are still part of her. That sadness, those mistakes, the regrets are still part of her, but she really is like looking forward to like maybe the bright side, maybe of like what she can do now to really make the most out of her life, is kind of how I interpret it.
All right. So again, very artistic. You do like your artwork. All right. But is this enough to really be seen as NI? And I guess we're in a subjective realm now. Maybe somebody sees this and they say, yeah, it is. Okay. All right. I personally, I'm not convinced by this. It's not sufficient.
It's interesting because both of these images you have, they're not cuddly. There's a gothic romantic feel to them. There's an element of darkness mixed in with beauty, with a sense of, there's definitely a clear mood and a sense
Yeah,
of that mood developing, looking forwards, but also going backwards.
yeah. And I think this also ties back in with my very intimate conversations with people, like these one-on-one, talking about your mistakes and what really makes you like who you are and stuff. Like I find it all very important. And that's why I allow people to say whatever they want. I don't really care if they have to kind of beat around the bush to not hurt my feelings. I try to throw sensitivity. I want something raw, and I don't want to use the word depressing, but sometimes just that's how it is. Yeah.
Yep.
So you can see how it sounds more like a beta now. Oh, I want it raw. I want, all these other things, this artistic search for meaning. The SE stuff later on, he talks a lot about many IEIs liking the bad boy and that tough person that can get you mobilized and going, which she likes that idea, liking the bad boy, stuff like that. You can see why it looks like it's beta, why it goes in that direction. You have to start taking IEI more seriously. But the question again, do you ever get the sense that that is really enough to really say that's an IEI? You can kind of flip a lot of these things around and go, well, it's still sensory things. It's still artistic beauty of things. Yeah, sure, it has a meaning to you. Well, most people's artwork does, but it's still sensory. She's still doing actual artwork, literally drawing something on your body. Liking a bad boy. Okay, sure, but many young girls, even older girls, like a bad boy. It's the most common trope that women like. When you search up female pornography, what do they want to read about? They want to read about a pirate. They want to read about a werewolf. They want to read about a vampire. They want to read about some badass guy who's awesome and hot and full of confidence and vigor and so on. That is classic. A lot of women love that stuff. So it's not really enough to make you go, oh, yeah, it's probably as he suggested. You're just not. There's just too many things that could be easily kind of written off here. So that's my point. I think this video's gone on long enough to make my points here. I encourage you, make your own decision, make your own points, what you think. I'm not saying that the typing of IEI is dead wrong. No, I'm saying I don't really know. I was not thoroughly satisfied to say that it was IEI. I think it requires really just more explanation, a little bit more follow through, more kind of going through it to figure it out. It wasn't enough to deter me away from SEI. So I still think that both possible types are still in play. It's not over yet, essentially. That's pretty much my conclusion. It's not over yet. Again, check it out, see what you think. Thanks to Jack for always doing his videos, having these videos online, putting himself in the hot seat. It's tough typing people on the spot like this, very hard to do. So kudos to him. Kudos to Tamia. I know this was probably a little nerve-wracking maybe to be on camera. I'm probably making you uncomfortable right now talking about you. Sorry about that. Not personal, it's just learning. But I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you put yourself out there. As always, like and subscribe and share your comments. What you thought, was this enough to be an IEI for you? Was it not? Etc. Okay, so, and by all means, check out the definitions and things. Whichever site you want. If you don't trust that one and you want to trust another one, there's more out there. Knock yourself out. Take a look at a few different sources on what these things are defined as in a socionics world. Okay, I'll link some of these things in the description. Okay, all right, so it's enough of me. On to the next one.